This is Craig Aubert with ESPN's Recruiting Nation. As we get closer to the release of the ESPN 150 on April 18th, let's take a look at some of the trends that we're seeing from this class as we go through videotape. I think if we look back at the last three classes, the #1 overall players have all been defensive linemen, from Jadeveon Clowney to Mario Edwards to this past year, Robert Kindici. Will another defensive lineman take the top spot? Possibly with players like Deshaun Hand and Andrew Brown, both out of Virginia. But I will say this, so far it's shaping up to be a bit of a down year overall on the defensive line, especially on the interior. Not a lot of players with great sizes. I think what we've seen so far is players who use good technique. They've shown good flexibility, but a lot of tweener type guys between that defensive end, that defensive tackle. Not a lot of great size inside or great size with an initial burst. On the outside, a lot of really sound football players like Solomon Thomas out of Texas. It's a young man with great power, plays with great pad level, but I haven't seen a lot of great edge rushers, dynamic type pass rushers in this class. So a bit of an interesting grouping along the defensive line. Some good groups among the running backs, a lot of size in that position amongst there. A little bit of a down year at the quarterback. Two positions that I found very interesting so far. Maybe not a lot of top echelon guys, but an outstanding group where I think there's a bunch of depth is at the tight end position. Really good group, especially amongst the H-back type tight ends. And then along the offensive line, you got players like Damian Prince, Cameron Robinson out of Louisiana, guys who all could contend for 5-star status. But even if you go below there, I think along the offensive tackle position, at the offensive guard position, there's a lot of great depth among those players. So I think for schools looking for offensive linemen, you can go pretty deep, and you may not get a top 50 guy, but you can still get a lot of quality guys. So it's going to be interesting to get together and put together this year's edition of the ESPN 150 for some good players, some good depth, but we'll see how things shape out amongst the top as this class is starting to compare a little bit to 2010. A lot of quality in that class, but it wasn't a clear-cut #1. That changed a bit. The last 3 years, we've been really solid with Clowney, Edwards, and Kindici. I don't know if that will be the case in 2014, but we will soon find out with the first release of the ESPN 150 on April 18th and go from there all the way up until National Signing Day.